Stream start. Does it work? Is it working? It's working. Yeah. Start the timer. Copy this, paste this, mute this. I like how I have to. What the fuck? Sub for Great Ball Pokemon drop. What? Huh? What? A mystery badge. What? I like how sometimes I just felt stuff turned on by default, like, what the fuck is this? One soft or gift, so I see. Anyway, what are we looking for? Ah, yeah, actually posting the link. Give me a second, let me open this, and this, unmute this, and open this. Play, it's the same thing basically. This, big, this, it goes with this. There we go. That's done. And we are ready to go, probably. Wait. Yeah, it started timer? Yeah. So, we are looking for, I don't know, something. Also, I hate, yeah. That's, somebody's gonna be like, wow, this is my first stream, this has to sound like that. No, not really. There we go. It sounds fine now, finally. Also, wait, you had any question? I saw something happen the other day in Naya stream. Like, you can't hear me if I mute. Like, okay, I don't know. It's a problem is something like that. Like, literally, on my end, it works perfectly well. I have nothing to do to make sure that it mutes. So, whatever. We're good. Sort of. We should have almost everything. The only problem is gonna be... Okay, this... What? Ah. I like having 4 or 5 different tabs and all of them playing at the same time, and out of nowhere, having no clue where I should be looking at for stuff. For the noise, actually, not just stuff, for the noise. Where the hell is the noise coming from? Yeah, it's somewhere along the many tabs, somewhere around there. We have to backtrack this a little bit. We left at like the almost 30 minutes mark. How much time do we have? 4 minutes? It's so much. Exclamation mark. We have still stuff to set up. Could be this and this and this. No. This. Open this and this. Paste this. This. Is it working? It's still broken. It's fine. The illusion of freedom or something like that is... Oh no, I don't know. And it doesn't work. Yeah. Kino. So Kino, for some reason. Anyway. What's up? I just realized whenever I get like energy, I start doing way too much stuff altogether. Like, I shouldn't be so unfocused as to end up doing so much stuff. Yet at the same time, that's somehow what always happens. Wasn't to be the case, but it does. No clue why. It's like whenever. Oh my god. Whenever I end up feeling with some energy on me, I choose to do everything that I can. And that very same everythingness drives me to do crazy amounts of different things to the degree to which I end up way too widespread in itself. And I think yeah, it's kind of bad probably. In like not that I think about it, I am pretty sure it's bad. After all, I end up not doing anything particularly that well because I am focused on all the things that I want to do. But isn't it fine to do that? To slowly progress on things one by one or something like that. Also, browser, yeah, this, this, green screen. We're good. We're good. Okay. We not that we should, we actually have everything working. Tools, login manager, installed, updates. I think it is because I'm streaming. Obviously, there are no updates to apply to any of the plugins. Otherwise, if there was, I'm kinda fucked. Like, yeah, maybe, maybe. So, I don't know. I am looking at. I feel like I'm forgetting something. I'm looking at the sensation of my forgetfulness and asking, what am I missing? I'm having no. Ah, yeah. I think like somehow the audio is way too low. Probably also, I don't know. These last handful of days have been very good in terms of allowing me to be almost mute. So we end up here with me trying to speak, but almost not having forgotten how to do that. Simply way too distance from the practice itself, I guess. Anyway, good morning. Oh my god! Did you hear that? Unbelievable, so great. Now there is a fade away effect of the other audio track. Like, I didn't even do anything out that myself. I know what I'm forgetting. I just remembered what I am forgetting. I didn't take my supplements today. Yeah. Can happen. Shouldn't have happened. But it's fine. No, I don't think it's fine. I should probably try to go and get it whenever we take a break. I'm gonna. Am I gonna actually remember to do that? Maybe I don't, and I regret my decision. Yeah. Also, I have a question before doing anything else. Because I was like, I have an idea, but out of nowhere, uh, I heard it somewhere else that supposedly I had the idea because I wanted to have it myself. Like I had been thinking about it and postponing doing it because I don't even know how to implement that. But yeah, it's supposedly. Ay, ay, ay. It's argumentation to put a fucking clock. Unbelievable. Is it the zeitgeist? I just wanna know what fucking time it is if I look at my own stream. Like, no, I don't really think I am going to know. I can. Sometimes I do forget to do that. I think I am way more in automatic than normally. But I think it's also because we can fill this space here with something like over here, over this area, we can put something. So with a clock there, things will be simpler, basically speaking. But that's not how things are, so I don't know. We maybe I keep thinking about it instead of doing anything. Yeah. Yeah. But no. I think I will do it at some point, yeah. For now, I am angry that my original idea has been said, pronounced as, no, yeah, for sure, actually do this. Make sure that you do this. This is gonna be so great. So, we're not gonna have a clock for now. Whenever I add the clock, it will be later on, not now. Besides that, I don't know, welcome. It has been a good handful of days. Uh, yeah, like two. But it has been pretty good since then. I haven't. I said that when we were not beginning until starting soon. Yeah, having way too busy. Not busy in terms of yeah, getting so much stuff done. Like if you look at everything slowly progressing on so many fronts, that in that sense it is an achievement. But the specific things very slowly moving forward, I guess it's kinda. I can say it like this. I think the illusion, the desire, the expectation of having the possibility of always working on what you feel like is the appropriate thing, this idea of will as the most necessary component of actions leads to, in cases like mine, yeah, you know what? We shall only focus on this very interesting thing for today, this shiny rock of the day. And tomorrow I will wake up and I will see and I will encounter something else completely different that is interesting because of completely different reasons. And I will focus on those. And I will be like, yeah, so meaningful to actually do this other thing. And the same will keep happening every single day for the past week or so. So yeah, progressing somewhat on things minimally, marginally. So yeah, it has been good enough, I guess, but it can, it shall still keep improving. So yeah, I don't know. We're gonna think about what's next to do, what's next to add and such. For now, as I was saying, yeah, we are good enough as it is. I think it's a great day to try and finish actually watching the video that we were watching. The only problem is it not enough time passed so that I would have forgotten every single argument, but for sure enough time passed so that I don't remember every single one of them either way. So while we are not in a horrible position, we're not in a great one either. Like, yeah, we are gonna suffer a little bit until I can actually get back in my mind all the ideas, all the things that we should be focusing on and such. But it's gonna work out anyways. Don't worry. We can for sure find a way to get ready and to get everything through. Point is, I want to finish that, but before doing that, I don't know. I wanna make sure that I can check a little bit more because we're gonna be done with that, and after that, what? Just nothing? I don't think it's that interesting. I mean, the problem, I have one video actually. I have one video that I wanted to save. I I think it's a very basic idea in itself, no? You should make sure to watch, like, it's realistically speaking, the very concept of reaction is based on the idea itself of giving not just a possibility, but giving giving the experience itself of the observation your first go. Also, okay, yeah. No, I was like, I didn't watch this video fully. What? I am pretty sure I did, but no, yeah. Here we have it. I did watch it fully. It simply happened that thanks to things, YouTube was like, no, you actually didn't. Thank you very much. But we have this. Let me, how do I say this? To watch later is true. That's saved. We have the second thing to try and watch. I mean, the problem is, how long is it gonna take to even finish the first one? It's fine. It's fine. We can take as much as we need. It's part of the fun, anyways. So, besides that, no, I don't have much more to add. The main intention of today is to finish that, yeah, so. We might as well simply progress with that. I assume, like, I don't know, not much more to hope for, not much more to focus on this one. So, we were around here. Let me mute the clock. Let me activate the. Do you have anything open that I shouldn't have open? Like, I don't know, WhatsApp or something like that that can suddenly, supposedly not. Okay, where are we? Desktop audio. Ah, yeah. The only problem always is you can hear the alerts for some reason, like as same as with the clock, which I understand. It's kind of hard to fully differentiate between things, but anyway, we are here to finish this. So, I went back like 1 minute. Is that gonna be enough? Actually, probably a minute and 30 seconds or so. Like, I don't think he was very deep into anything. All that I can easily remember is this guy. We were watching Peter Thiel, a random conference talk that he was giving at, I think it was Stanford University, and the idea was to try and see what he had to say, how he had to argue about things and whatnot, the points that he tried to make and similar, and yeah, it ended up being quite. I felt it was fun enough because there were a lot of issues with what he was saying, like in older times when I reacted to something, it was far simpler to just sit there and consume the information that we were receiving without any kind of afterthought. Here, the issue is this guy is not really being clear in what he's trying to say, nor do I really have that much of a happy attitude towards this person. So I am trying to actually dissect everything that might come out of the mouth of this human being. So it's quite interesting to encounter then with this as the reasoning behind our actions. That yeah, there are actually a lot of things to pick apart and analyze and whatnot. So if we can, we shall finish this before it gets even later, before we take even longer to go through all of this. Otherwise, it's gonna be not demonic, but rather tiresomely long, unnecessarily so, basically. But yeah, let me play this.
Do is just hand out some Kool-Aid a la People's Temple to everybody, or something like this. And if we and then I think lest we just dismiss this sort of thing as just the kind of thing that happens in a post-COVID mental breakdown world. I found another article from Nick Bostrom, who's sort of an Oxford.
Yeah, I remember. Okay, I can give the quick rundown so far is simply this guy was arguing. We want to, in a strange sense of a presentation, like there is a proper philosophical method and whatnot which you can utilize to try and make proper analysis of thing, and then there is what this guy did where yeah, I think sciences are as useless as humanities, so we shall analyze how stems in general are meaningless beyond or besides computer sciences. And he went on and on and on about points that he himself made, and not like so exact, objective information, simple, specific analysis. The basic concept of cherry picking things and whatnot, making sure that he only talked out very specific parts of the argumentation, very specific aspects of the thing and whatnot. He didn't really make an objective analysis. The conclusion also ended up being incredibly funny, something along the lines. So we can say that nowadays, then sciences are as delusional as humanities, something along those lines. Not simply useless, but an even more degrading word to try to make a very convincing argument. Not by proving anything, but rather by just the way of, yeah, with my words, now you shall assume that what I am saying is true. If I call it shit, you will absolutely find yourself convinced that what I am describing is indeed a shit, something along those lines. And besides that, what else? I know that's the general, up to this point, what has happened. It obviously started with something like, yeah, let me show you here. We are gonna talk about a lot of things that are maybe somewhat unrelated and whatnot, and that also was a very impactful factor into all of this. One of the other things that, for example, happened was this guy mentioning the Rigoberta Menchu and having the one of the funny conclusions was I was a pivotal point for this woman to get a Nobel Prize. If it wasn't for me featuring her in my university newspaper, she wouldn't have gotten one, basically. An argumentation along those lines, which is incredibly funny. But yeah, I don't know. I don't remember any other important point. I don't know. As I said before, there are many strawmans and similar weak argumentations that you can find all throughout this. There are examples and such that are done very unfaithfully, and they matter for the analysis of the whole thing, but not for the quick rundown of what has happened so far. Just to acknowledge their existence, I guess, yeah. So I don't know, I might be missing something probably, but whatever.
Academic, and most of these people are sort of, I don't know, there's somehow, they're interesting because they have nothing to say. They're interesting because they're just mouthpieces. It's like the mouth of Sauron. It's just sort of complete sort of cogs in the machine, but they're useful because they tell us exactly where the zeitgeist is in some ways. And this was from 2019, pre-COVID, the vulnerable world hypothesis, and it goes through a whole litany of these different ways where science and technology are creating all these dangers for the world, and what do we do about them? And it's the precautionary principle, whatever that means.
Yeah. I remember, like, one of the final comments that I made. I think I stopped over here. The funny idea of let me introduce you to this thing that I heard without actually explaining anything of what I heard, just ridiculing what I am not even going to actually acknowledge. Like, this person is saying stupidities, these stupid ideas and whatnot. It's not that language specifically, but it's the same structure in a more non-aggressive way. Or when he says something along the lines of, the precautionary principle, whatever that is, it's simply that. Like, you can try to paint it as, I am not so informed. If you're making a presentation, you have the obligation to try to have in some way or another some sort of knowledge about what you're going to mention. It is not fair at all to mention something that you do not have any knowledge about, unless you acknowledge that part. Otherwise, the audience might as well assume that you're going to be expressing something important about it, and not believing that, I don't know, every single person that heard this guy at that moment was a sheep, absolutely willing to say, yeah, Peter Thiel, you're so right, clap, clap, clap. No, I don't think so, but simply that it's sort of the intention behind these stupid things and these stupid ideas that these stupid people are mentioning, whatnot. That's the sensation that it carries.
But then, he has a 4-part program for achieving stabilization, and I will just read off the 4 things you need to do to make our world less vulnerable and achieve stabilization in this sort of, we have this exponentiating technology where maybe it's not progressing that quickly, but still progressing quickly enough. There are a lot of dangerous corner cases.
I think we can already pause here. One of the main things is already the idea of why technology is exponential. I don't think it's so necessary in a very hyper specialized space as something like, once again, I think it is Stanford, I say, and it's not so necessary to mention the whole technology so far as the resources themselves are available, and the interest is also found to try and move the science itself forward. Technologies keep evolving in such ways that it grows in itself accurately, exponentially, when you look back at the evolution of, in this case, machines and not just technology, stuff like internet and the, I don't know, it's Peter Thiel. You're talking about probably also AI in some way, so yeah. I love that. It's something, right? Like, yeah, for sure it happens like that, certainly. Not so much to worry about, but I don't know, pointing it out. Not everything that he says. I guess, actually, yeah, that's the value of the comment. Not everything that he says is wrong. I can make an argument look far more valid if I introduce in my argumentation to try to reach my conclusion many other things that might be by default already true enough, like, I don't know, if I have to make something up. The idea of, I think it's not so much of a making it up, but rather utilizing the known examples. Man is but a chickenless wing. What the fuck? Featherless chicken? Sorry. Man is but a featherless chicken. That whole expression between, I think it was Socrates and Plato, or not Socrates. I don't remember exactly who it is. I don't care so much about the specifics. The point is, yeah, the man is the featherless chicken of the world, or featherless bird, basically. And then the counter argument being, there you go, then here you have somebody can skin a chicken, throw it in front of everyone and say, this is now a man. And while it proves wrong what the previous argument was, it also shows that the way in which it was structured was not properly performed. In this case, it's the same thing, not because you're pronouncing that certainly technology escalates exponentially, quadratically. You are making your point valid by default. It's just, I guess, in argumentation, a simpler method to make sure that, yeah, my final point looks stronger if you don't such it, if you just take it at face value.
You only need to do these 4 things to stabilize the world. Number 1, restrict technological development. Number 2, ensure that there does not exist a large population of actors representing a wide and recognizably human distribution of motives. So that sounds like somewhat incompatible with the DEI, at least in the ideas form of diversity. Number 3, establish extremely effective preventive policing. And number 4, establish effective global governance, since you can't let, even if there's like one little island somewhere where this doesn't apply, it's no good. And so it is basic, and this is the zeitgeist on the other side. It is the precautionary principle. It is, we're not going to make it for another century on this planet, and therefore, we need to embrace a one world totalitarian state right now.
I'm having conflicting feelings because on one hand, if it wasn't, I don't know, if I was the one making the argument, I would say, yeah, so real, so honest, what a problem, the other side of the world. But at the same time, this is being said by the person who is directly connected to trying and to efforts towards trying and generating something along these lines in the Western world. It's like, yeah, only the Eastern is having this. Not only the Western is having that very same situation, it's literally the fucking main guy who's doing that. The person who's pronouncing, who's, I don't know, performing as the denouncer of the issues of that. It's like, I finally encountered something incredibly funny when I was looking up stuff before getting here. Between, I think, today and yesterday, something about what is the definition that Palantir has by its own terms. Like, what do they call themselves? It's just the management of databases and nothing else. That's like the most non-specific description ever. Then when you look at the actions, when you look at the results, when you look at everything that actually goes on, when you look at what has been said, what shows to be happening, from what they decide to let the public know, or what gets to get filtered and such, from their insiders and workers and similar and leaks and whatnot, the reality is the databases that they control are not just databases in general, it's databases about populations, databases about the information available to different countries. It started off as something that was only existent in America at this point. I don't remember if it is something like 20 or 30 countries already working directly with Palantir. It's like crazy in that sense. It's not at all just databases. It's the management of information in a way in which you can very much. One of the easiest to understand explanations was, it seems to be with what little gets to be known, the case that actually Palantir is working towards the creation of a similar enough system to those of movies like Matrix, where it might be possible with enough possession of information all throughout the databases of the world to, from cameras, get to know everything. Like, this applies directly. Now, let's say like this: if Palantir didn't exist, we wouldn't be having problems such as the vlog cameras, for example. That's a direct correlation that exists. They're not so much apparent because supposedly they are not working together openly, but the technology that was generated and perfected by Palantir is what allowed then vlog to come out and yeah, do their experiments and such. So, once again, the argument sounds incredibly good until you remember who the fuck is making it. Like, I don't know, I cannot really come up with an example. It's like the prisoners, all of the prisoners have a bad time, and all of the prisoners are oppressed. It's one of the worst things that could happen to prisoners. This not being said by a prisoner, this whole idea being made by the prison director himself. Like, it's not honest in the slightest. Not at all. Not at all. But I don't know, I think it's, once again, good enough to at least think about. Not really something that makes anyone happy, but yeah, good enough to start thinking about it. Continuing, guys.
So third and fourth counter arguments. The third, okay, just to repeat, the first counter argument is science is great. It's solving everything. Don't even pay attention to the humanities. Counter argument, no, it's not. Third main counter argument, well, science is too dangerous. We have to slow it down. So it's good that it's not so great. We're slowing it down. We need to slow it down even more. And then the counter argument, and this is where I would return to classical liberalism, is that however dangerous science and technology are, it seems to me that totalitarianism is far more dangerous, and that whatever the dangers are in the future, we need to never underestimate the danger of one world totalitarian state. Once you get that, hard to see what it ends. There's always there's always sort of the frame where I think it's in 1 Thessalonians 5, chapter 3.
What the fuck are you talking about? Why are you mentioning the Bible? Okay, stop here. We don't need the Bible argument before getting to boss. Point is, if I have to take it at face value, like, discounting who this person is right now, to reply directly to what is being said, the complete jump from one opposite to the other one, like, okay, we are saying that we want sciences to progress. What happens with sciences is that they are too dangerous. We shall impose a totalitarian state. What? It's like that's the only way that you can think of to try and censor, moderate, and regulate sciences? If it isn't through a totalitarian state, it's not possible to moderate, it's not possible to minimally slow down. It has to be, the argumentation goes from we had all the sciences that we wanted to we shall never again have sciences because we are gonna fall under the most totalitarian state ever, in order to not allow any scientific endeavor to be developed, that's what we are actually looking for, a regime that removes from our current existences the possibility of ever exploring science. It's, in that sense, it's directly like I wanna say maliciously wrong. I feel like to some degree it cannot really be maliciously done, because you should not assume maliciousness. But at the same time, it's not like a fucking random guy. Even if you discount the person in itself, when you try to argue about it, you cannot really then continue doing that very same thing. Because in this case, it's not somebody who is stupid enough to just say the most random things without any kind of cohesion whatsoever. It's an intentional misleading tactic in order to make it look like, yeah, we can only have this or that. We cannot have in any way any other thing. There is no middle ground. Like, everything else in the middle of those options is forbidden. In this case, the argumentation could be something like this. You're expressing that it is either complete totalitarian regime or the most open, whatever liberal means under his eyes, freedom, I guess, libertarian. I don't even know. It's like, to some degree, there are some words that he utilizes, once again, maliciously, without any kind of proper cohesion, without any kind of interest of having them apply to any one sense or anything. It's just like, yeah, let me see which word we can insert here that might work for my current argument without anything else. It's crazy. But yeah, returning to the point, it's not that there can only be totalitarianism or the most open libertarianate, I think they are called. It is possible to live in a more regulated and secure world with enough safeties and preventions, scientific endeavors, without removing altogether the liberty of having them, just securing enough landmarks to make sure that nothing as absolutely dreadful was to happen to the people who tries to perform these endeavors themselves. It's completely idiotic to assume that everything that will happen will only be like this or like that. There are life, thankfully enough, is full of gray middle areas and such. So yeah, that's the basic response. I don't know. Our friend here wants to continue now with an explanation about a Bible text. So I guess we shall see why the sudden biblical reference out of nowhere, completely like unexpected or something. Who knows?
The political slogan of the Antichrist is peace and safety. And I think, what I want to suggest is that, and you get it when you have sort of a homogenized one world totalitarian state.
I think I get it. I said it before, I don't want to sense the character of this guy too much. I think like any kind of particular mention towards, yeah, this guy must have been must have lost his mind at some point, thinking about all of that and worrying out all of that by himself without ever realizing indeed that this is what was happening or such. That doesn't really matter all that much. The point itself is found somewhere else in terms of you're just what you don't like without directly addressing the point. What you don't like, you're equating to the worst outcome possible. You're not even trying to argue against it. You're just utilizing the easiest tool at your disposal that might serve you to point at this thing and say, ah, yeah, this thing bad. Everyone make sure to remember this thing bad in an effort to make sure that the conversation about such needs is completely abandoned without, once again, without even visiting the arguments themselves, just going directly to some sort of method that can allow you to make it look like this conversation in itself is completely unnecessary by default, and any desire to bring this forward, to continue having this very conversation, can only come from a place of bad intentions. Like, it's a reframing of what's happening here. I am the good guy because what I am saying is, let's take a step back. The conversation is happening in itself, and I come as the newer participant, but I don't even engage with the conversation. I directly tell you this to you, the listener, the person who has to think about what is being said and such. I am the good guy, they are the bad guys. And there is no attempt to utilize any actual argument, just to pull you directly from the rhetorical side of, yeah, I shall convince you that this is the case.
And what I want to suggest in closing is perhaps we would do well to be a little bit more scared of the Antichrist and a little bit less scared of Armageddon. Thank you very much.
I get it. Without addressing the character again, I find it funny how there is an obsession towards this idea of, yeah, censorship in itself will be something bad, revelations and whatnot is something terrible. Like, one of the problems is, this is not like somebody like me who doesn't have that much cash. It's a fucking billionaire. In a way, you're also saying, yeah, I don't want the regulations for any kind of thing. I don't want regulations for my cash, my technology, my developments, my investments. I don't want regulations for anything. Any kind of moderation might as well impact me negatively. So we shall get rid of any moderation whatsoever. In that sense, we can return to what I mentioned last time, the whole ideology of accelerationism. In a way, capitalism always requires sort of rules out the things that are happening inside of the market. There is no economy if there is no side of the people who offer and the people who buy and the people who produce and such. It's the whole strategy is to have all of these different contingencies, not only to have value of things, but also to make sure that everyone works together towards expressing what is valuable and what not. In this case, it also occurs then that, for sure, it seems to be the case that as this one actor found himself at the top of the game, he realized, okay, it stops being so meaningful to actually just have all of these things. We can move towards something else. And thus, if accelerating the current decline of this system will allow us to finally get rid of all of these issues, in which the issue of the desire for censorship and regulations and such is also found, we shall move forward in that direction then. That's the basic argumentation there. And not only that, but also, I feel like I'm to some degree overanalyzing it, but I don't know. I I can justify myself by saying this guy intentionally is as big as fuck. So it's like you are trying so hard to not be in any way whatsoever clear with what you are thinking, specific with what you are actually saying, directly capable of expressing your intentions. It has to be through deciphering that anybody gets to see what's happening, that anybody gets to assume minimally what you are saying. And if you're gonna leave it to that, then allow me with all pleasure to my so in this case, from this perspective also. So yeah, returning to what I was trying to say, also you could even say something like the line of the first part I already mentioned. You should be more scared of the Antichrist. It's, as I said before, Antichrist means all that I dislike and I know will take me out from my current position of power. That's the first part. Unless the second part is what matters now. Unless scared about Armageddon, isn't like isn't that like a horrible thing in itself? Like you could, we already had times in which humanity as a whole believed they were experiencing Armageddon, and amongst the many instances of that, one of the most preeminent Armageddons was the Second World War. I cannot avoid what to say. Are you not in a certain way preaching, yeah, if we were to go into a third world war, that's fine too? Isn't that like an... In which way is that acceptable, rather? How... The first question was gonna be, isn't that like a bad message? In which way it's fine to try to imply even something like that? How would it be nice to return to a state in time as that one when it comes to the humanity as a whole? It's surprising not only to see that, but also if you are to take it out from the context of just a similar enough bad situation, actual Armageddon, the concept of everything finally coming to an end, you are saying that it is fine that everything collapses, that there is no more humanity, that there might even probably no more Earth? Isn't that like absolutely... You want the human race to end? That's what? I can see a little bit more what was said last time of, yeah, is this guy a transhumanist? Perhaps, yeah, with that sort of ideology, absolutely. You cannot classify yourself as anything but that if you are gonna actually spout such opinions. It's completely malicious in its argumentation from that perspective. But, I don't know. I guess I'm done with that point. What a crazy I do think about this. Let us continue. I like to see the handful of faces. Some are actually looking happy, but there are so many faces of frustration. It's obviously it's my reading imposed onto what's happening there, but I like to think that some of those frustration faces come from people who actually have any fucking idea of what are the implied messages there. Because holy fuck, what a malicious speech. not from a sense of, yeah, he's directly saying horrible things, but rather from the perspective of what a horrible ideology you're actually trying to promote so openly.
And I write your point that 4% growth is the key to solving all problems about once a week. So I'm glad you brought that up. I don't think you hit it quite hard enough. It almost sounded like you were sympathetic with the dual use criticism of technology. But I think it's important to bash that if you were bashing it super hard, and if you weren't bashing it, I get to disagree with you. We could have abundant, essentially free energy right now if the anti-nuclear movement hadn't stopped it in the US. It wasn't about India, Pakistan. The Regional Nuclear Regulatory Commission hasn't certified a single nuclear power plant since 1975 in the United States. Has nothing to do with that. We could have breeder reactors now. The danger is much less than the danger of burning coal, even if you include the 3 Mile Islands. It isn't because of dual use that every airplane down at the Palo Alto airport uses an engine designed in the 1950s. It's the FAA. The reason that the high-speed train cost us $100 billion and therefore will never be built, that subways cost $4 billion a mile and never will be built. I think the thesis of growth comes from technology, but the thesis that we are not growing because government regulation is in the way, I think, is one that we need to take more seriously.
Well,
it's a leftist cause.
Look, I'm sympathetic to that. I would disagree with the nuclear history, where I think it was fear of nuclear war that.
I think, before actually getting the response of the guy, because I'm gonna forget about the argument that was just made by the time this guy finally finishes a fucking response. Yeah, it's unacceptable enough. I guess the issue, as I said before, he likes to mix many things that are true with also his actual ideas and his actual opinions. Like, it's not his saying, it's a far wider economist idea in terms of, yeah, this is a sort of fact. If you have the older guy said the 4% growth, or what's the other name? CDI or something like that. PBI? I don't know. PIB? Something along those lines. If you have that 4% nationwide, you are doing incredibly well. You're solving everything. Yes, it's an economist idea, not this guy idea. He simply was capable enough of parroting it to make then all the other concepts that he was capable of bringing forward from that point onwards, based off of that, are accurate. And I don't know, I don't think it's what the older guy said in any way was an issue. Like, it's one of the worst problems that can happen in the world, to see how sometimes the regulations that are imposed around the things that could otherwise be impacting directly societies don't come from an actual place of interest for the well-being of anyone, but rather from a manipulation and stoppage, a necessity to include as many possibilities to not allow the progress of said technologies. Not the problem also in itself, the argumentation of, yeah, because technology is dangerous, it's not the dangerousness of it, it's the actual unhandleability, I guess you could call it, of what gets to be created. To have private companies manufacture something like a nuclear power plant is rotundly dangerous. In a world in which you want a central government to have the control of what happens at a nation-wide level. So already from that point onwards, you're having frictions exist and be continuously generated and renovated, as long as these very same impossibilities keep being allowed, basically. I don't know if I'm missing anything. But yeah, the point that I don't know, I don't feel like discussing it with Peter Thiel adds that much of a value. It's like obviously regulations in themselves are bad when they don't come from a place of actual interest. It's like I see why the argumentation that he made of yeah, regulations are the devil, we should get rid of them, makes so much sense for these kind of older people who have already seen them be imposed on actual great projects that could have gone so much further if they hadn't been stopped with these very same tools. But yeah, besides that, I don't know. Let's see. I guess we're gonna assume he'll end up agreeing, probably. But once again, the argument itself is fine, not the person who says it with, nor with the intentions.
Was conflated with nuclear power plants and that turned people against them. So we could spend a long time going through that history. You know, I agree with you on all the micro-regulatory stuff. The regulations are stupid. I'd get rid of them. I'd want to roll them back. And then at the same time, there is this cultural backdrop where, there are some things that have gone wrong. We had, thalidomide, that empowered the FDA to become far more draconian. I think the FDA overreacted to the thalidomide disaster. But there's something in our society where some of these risks, were able to be weaponized in a very drastic way. And I think this is where the simple, naive libertarian arguments, they just never carry the day. Even though, yeah, if I could do it in every single instance, I'd push a button and deregulate. But it's not been working. And the nuclear power thing is a striking one where it's obvious we should be doing this, and it's been completely stuck for 45 years. It's not like it's a little bit outside the Overton window. It's way outside the Overton window.
Okay, wait. I don't think I guess we can probably freely talk about it here because in the end, one has to hope that this guy won't in any way be looking up himself or something like. It's gonna be depressing if that ends up being the case. But yeah, realistically speaking, the proper argumentation is not just, oh wow, what the fuck, people can easily be manipulated through fear. It's like, he himself directly expressed that. Whenever you understand expressions such as the Machiavellism that can be identified to be capable of subjugating the masses, it is far more understandable to see how, when it comes to the manipulation of societies, one of the easiest ways to get societies themselves, communities, to agree on things is to instill on them as much fear as possible with any kind of problematic that you want them to take a stance on. Let's say, if you are willing to show them as many issues, like main example from today's society, people stop buying as many cigarettes because they can see the direct problems of smoking on the packaging of anything tobacco related. To give people tools of this sort to realize what the problems are is to, in one way, when it comes to tobacco, empower them to avoid these very bad situations. When it comes to something like nuclear power, to see and grasp at the certainty of, we don't really know if this is something safe enough. Even if otherwise the objective information itself might be capable of demonstrating how the risk levels are far lower. It's something vastly more quickly done to terrorize a society than to actually educate them properly with enough valid, positive, not positive. I mean, positive works. positive not in the scientific sense of, yeah, this is indeed correct, but rather positive as in the sense of good information, valid, empowering, let's say, in the way in which people will say, yeah, we shall allow this to be, and such. It takes far more effort to get people to actually form an opinion like that, because education is costly. Whenever you have no clue, it takes a lot of time, a long time, maybe even the conversation about so many decades and so many even generations sometimes. Like, probably, if we have to be honest, we might slowly, in the next, let's say, 20 years, finally return to the conversation about nuclear plants once we get to fade away the now, which are still old people, seats of power when it comes to these decisions, the newer, still old people, seats of power, will finally come from generations which didn't grow terrified of these things, didn't have as many issues with that. Muffin? Muffin. Welcome, Sitze. Hope you're. I hope you can do much greater. Here we are. You are slowly progressing to through this. I don't know how much we have here. I think like 1 hour or so. So yeah, you are slowly digesting this. But yeah, I know. I think that's my point actually. Like that was literally it. Probably we can return to the conversation about nuclear plants and such nuclear power soon enough. But at the same time, like I already mentioned that myself, we're slowly moving towards the creation, generation, and evolution of clean green power, solar panels, and far more technological advancements in that industry. So by the time we can return to nuclear energy as it was, we might already have developed enough all the other greener alternatives that are far easier not to implement, but simply to just slide into the current societies instead of having to accommodate entire of nuclear facilities or something like that, which, even if we understand, won't bring the destruction of the whole universe, will take more time and effort than just. I said it before, not before today, last time, something like changing glass panels into solar panels to get finally to isolate the sun's energy is gonna be massive, man. And we are finally slowly nearing that point in time. So yeah, I don't know. Anything else? Not so far from now. We can continue a little bit. Days.
Hello. So my name is Aditya. I'm a undergraduate student studying philosophy and political science here at Stanford. Right for the review. So my question is, there's this quote I remember. I think it's from Adorno, Theodore Adorno, or maybe some like anti-colonial scholar commenting on him, something like that. It goes, the only way to gain progress is to stop talking about it. And his argument, essentially, if I recall correctly, is that the more we talk about progress, the more it gives leeway to sort of totalitarian, colonialist structures, imperialist structures that allow you to oppress people who are behind, right? It's like the West is better or more farther in progress than the East or something like that. If we sort of invert that argument, it seems like the language of progress in many ways motivates the DI officers to progress by, perhaps expanding access of education to minorities. We're learning new things about equity and fair, freedom, and equal, all these values which we didn't have before. Therefore, we should impose them on the sort of loser reactionaries who are convening at a conference, talk about academic freedom. So basically, my question is, why not adopt this sort of motto of we will continue to progress and pursue progress, but we frame it all in a language of return. The same way sort of a lot of, I think, religious reactionaries like myself and others on the Stanford are trying to do. So we still want progress, but we don't sound like we do.
Okay, before the actual response, I like the argument actually. I like it because it makes you think for a little bit. It sounds interesting. I can probably say I think that the easiest first point is obviously it's kind of dangerous in any way to frame it as something religious. Like you're gonna end up with a fucking sectarian thinking and whatnot if you allow such structures to be created and generated in this case just for the sake of progress. Don't you have like stuff like the Masons or such? If you want something like that, I think it's completely ridiculous from that point of view. But the other conversation is something funny that occurs about progress is the realization of if we want to actually move forward, we have to be capable of moving all of us forward. It cannot be that I move forward by squashing down other civilizations and others of lesser capacities. The reevaluation of the proper values themselves that are possessed by any society is what allows the progress to even exist in the first place. And sometimes these very same values play a role in said societies that made these very same existing arrangements possible, not because the societies needed to be based on such violent interactions between classes, but rather because otherwise what occurs is simply that in many structures power can only be expressed through the domination of some towards others. So, to firstly get to talk about progress in a more open sense, it's necessary to firstly even revise what progress is. And I don't know, I don't think it's bad. I feel like it's useful enough, even if in the end, in a way, you can try to frame it as, no, all of these minorities are wasting our time. It's useful enough to finally get somebody willing to speak out the issues that exist in such minorities. Once again, it's nice enough to have that conversation in any way. It's me as the free person cannot really realize what are the situations that need to be fixed before we get to go to space, let's say like that. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's my particular analysis of it. Like, progress sadly does require a lot of analysis and investigation of what are the previous values that we align with and such. It's fine, it's necessary, and it's something that then leads to great results and such. It's not just a what the fuck. We're sacrificing progress towards the future for the sake of progressing these less advantageous, less privileged societies or less privileged sectors of or I don't know communities and such. It's so stupid to have that. Not really. It's like let's to put it in this other way. If you wanna move forward, you cannot leave anything behind. In I think at this point, like the argumentation of why that is the case might as well take way too long, way too long. The simple argument is, yeah, we are already advanced enough as societies to get why that is the case. You might as well you try to argue how that is not so necessary to not leave others behind. In that sense, see how you get treated if you don't have any care on how you express it.
I'm somewhat confused by exactly what that means, but look, I would agree with you that there's.
Let me say like this. Are you not paying attention to what was being said? Like, I am not the speaker there. I don't even get to fully see the person present there, and I got the argument. What the fuck are you talking about? You didn't get it, man. Aren't you like a genius? It's fine.
There's something about progress that's been hijacked. We still have people who call themselves progressives. It's much less clear how you quantify what they are progressing on. And then if we frame it in terms of science, technology, per capita GDP, number of nuclear power plants, we try to quantify these things. It seems like we're not actually that progressive on on a lot of dimensions. And I think one way, and this is sort of just a narrow political framing, but one way to describe the decline away from progress that which I think still had this more general sense of not just a political word, but also a science word and also a societal word in the 1930s, 1950s, 60s to today, is the way that we have, instead of using the word progress, we use the word change. And the Obama 2008 campaign, the initial slogan was hope and change, which was, and then they changed the slogan in the course of the campaign to the change we need, which if you think about it is the exact opposite of the first one. The first one was as much change as possible. The second one was as little change as is absolutely necessary. And it was because the word change poll tested very badly because people sensed that when you talk about change, you're not talking about progress. And in fact, most of the time, you talk about change when it's non-progressive change, i.e. it is regressive and it's change for the worse. And so, yeah, so I think it is all very paradoxical. I don't think we can, I don't think we can simply go back to the past. I don't think we should completely, I think we should try to reclaim this question of progress. We should be asking, where's the growth? How will the next generation do better than the current ones in any of a number of different dimensions of what counts as better? And I think the fact that the left no longer believes in these things means there should be some opening to reclaim this ground. But simply going back to the past can't work because then we're just going to cycle and repeat. I mean, there has to have been something that didn't quite work with classical liberalism. Even if there was a golden age of classical liberalism in the past, we end up here today. This is always, I don't know, this is too polemical, but it's sort of like, in the 80s when I was at Stanford, you saw these Marxist professors, and the sort of line was, true Marxism has never been tried, they always said. And I often wonder that if someone calls themselves a liberal, classical liberal today, are they like a Marxist professor from 1985 where, true liberalism has never been tried? I think it's tried, it hasn't quite worked. We have to be a little bit critical of it to figure out where it went wrong and then, how to progress into something that combines the best elements of classical liberalism with something else for the future.
Okay, no, yeah. He actually didn't even get what he was trying to answer. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. What a character. What a funny character, man. Yeah. I don't want to talk about the politics too much. I don't care about them. I don't care about what you wanna frame it as, my little guy. Doesn't matter. That's not your intentions here. It's you to know that you wanna divert the conversation with, yeah, have you thought about this other thing? Beautiful. That doesn't matter. I think, if anything, the example still is illuminating in sense of the only political comment I will make in that sense is, you can see why then the slogan existed of let's make America great again. The idea of we have fallen from grace, we shall return it to grace. But yeah, not much else to say in that sense. Um, any other argument that he actually made substantial? Like, I don't know. Yeah, you talk about let's not return to the past. Unbelievable, brother. So true. That's not the point. But yeah.
Hi, Hollis Robbins. I'm Dean of Humanities at University of Utah, and I certainly like the idea that I can tell people, say, why humanities? Well, Peter Thiel says you should study humanities. I know that you didn't exactly say that, but I'll use it for my own ends.
It was a relative argument.
It was a relative argument. But I'm interested in listening to you, trying to figure out the admixture of optimism and pessimism. Because on the one hand, the past isn't enough, but we should study it. On the other hand, we have to be looking toward the future, but can't be too optimistic. We have to be realistic. So I suppose I want to ask just a simple question, especially in the midst of this discussion that is up to this point been very pessimistic. Is what does success look like?
Well, I always dislike that question a lot. You know, I tend to think.
Okay, wait. Actually, aren't we like living in the world in which he slowly gets away with the stuff that he wants? I can't really help that many regulations being imposed on something like Palantir. I feel like, if anything, he has gotten away with so much shit. Unbelievable. Do you want to see what success looks like? Person from 2022? Come to the present, you will see what it looks like.
I dislike psychology. We've overdosed on psychology. It's just we've overdosed on therapy. All this nonsense, and optimism and pessimism are just, I think, bad forms of psychotherapy. They are, they are in some sense, at the extreme limit case, they're the same thing.
What?
Extreme optimism, it's like, okay, you just need to sit back and watch the movie of the future unfold and eat some popcorn. You don't need to do anything. The singularity is near. It's that Ray Kurzweil type thing. That's extreme optimism. Extreme pessimism is, die with dignity, or not very much, but, and nothing you can do. And it's because extreme optimism and extreme pessimism, extreme optimism is denial, extreme pessimism is acceptance, but they both sum up to sloth. They're both forms of extreme laziness where you're not going to do anything. And so if you had to give, an accurate picture, I'm not sure it's true, but the healthy one is we're somewhere in between. It is not destined that this planet is going to self-destruct. It's not destined that it's going to become a totalitarian one-world state.
I mean, like, from a basic science functioning, not science, planetary functioning thing, like, what's the idea? In 5.6 billion years from now, the world is gonna end, so, it's gonna self-destruct, basically. Like, you from that point onwards, you're wrong, but
there is some path in between. It's hard. We shouldn't accept totalitarianism or destruction. You have to fight. You have to work on it, and that's sort of where I always get back to some form of individual human agency. The indomitability of the human spirit, and but it can't be guaranteed. As soon as you make it too optimistic or too pessimistic, that's you're lost.
no. I don't. Wait, what? Somebody almost started clapping. What the fuck are you clapping for? You clown! No. Directly, now actually addressing the point of what the fuck is this guy saying, even? No, for sure, it's completely delusional. Like, it's beautiful to know that this guy actually trying to not make as many personal judgments, but bro, you literally graduated from University of Philosophy. un cavaliere, and how the fuck are you gonna say, yeah, pessimism is an invention of psychology? Like, what the fuck did you get taught about? What what's the message? Did you not, in your entire existence, approach something like Schopenhauer? Did you like the the final point of the indomitable human spirit? At least I will assume he read on Nietzsche. If not, what does he only know that from memes or what the fuck? It's unbelievable, unbelievable character, absolutely crazy. Besides that, as an actual response, not just clowning on the mere proposition itself, they don't even have the capacity to explain any kind of projection towards the future in any meaningful way, in any simplistic way. It's a negation of the possibilities of it existing already, because in one way or another you might as well require to at least be capable of formulating a plan, not to just state the most basic idea of, yeah, we shall be trying to make something occur. That is in itself the most basic expression of the interest in making sure that things keep moving forward, the ability to imagine and picture anything in any minimal vision is useful enough to already generate any other sort of willfulness towards the creation of this very same idea. It's I don't care about being optimistic. That doesn't mean that I am now allowed to never express any kind of vision about the future that I think I have, simply because it might be too optimistic. Other people might require that to then begin to follow me, you know? Something like that. But, once again, whatever.
I'm Rick Schwader. I'm a cultural anthropologist and cultural psychologist at the University of Chicago. First of all, thank you for that utterly engaging and provocative talk.
Yeah, I guess that's the most interesting part. The For somebody like this, like an anthropologist, like, yeah, this is absolutely provocative. You're literally telling me most of what I know. Go fuck yourself. Unbelievable.
Everything is the state, nothing is outside the state, nothing is against the state. Something like that was Mussolini's definition originally of fascism. How far down that road do you think we have gone in this society?
Oh, that's a dangerous question. You know, I never know how to think about that. I think it's way further than I would like. You know, on the other hand, we can have conferences.
I guess, yeah, we can. I absolutely see. It's good enough observation about it being dangerous now, early. It has two sides to the dangerousness of it. Not only is it a dangerous thing to try to tackle, but to even begin to admit that it might be the case might already paint you as not an anti-fascist, but a sort of paranoid person who already has delusions of persecution or something like that, where you believe that everything in the current system is made just to oppress you, something like that.
Like this, we can talk about things. There are a lot of things you get in trouble for, but you can still talk about them in small groups, anonymously. You know, there are parts of the internet that have been taken over by the state, but the internet still is in some ways more free than it was. You know, it was 20 years ago. So I don't know. I think it's uncomfortably. There's sort of uncomfortable elements that are that way. There's an uncomfortable entanglement that the U.S. has with China, where we're rivals, but the danger is always, you have to choose your enemies well, because you will soon become just like them. And are we going to copy the kind of surveillance totalitarian AI that China has and impose that in the US. So
Are we? What do you think, brother? You tell me. You tell me. 2026, you tell me. What do you think has been happening? What? Unbelievable. Incredible play. Finally, something reasonable said by this guy. Ah,
there's sort of, I
yeah.
think there are, in all sorts of ways where I think it's been pushed too far.
But no. Once again, it's not an argument being made by a person so willfully interested in the freedom of the universe and whatever. Motherfucker, you're the main cause of all of this. I already made that whole argument before. If it wasn't for the processing and the digestion of the different databases, we would not be in this fucking point in time, my man. So you are not free from guilt from what is happening with anything like Flock. It's yeah.
But it's still, I don't know. I'd still much rather live in the U.S. than China. So all these ways, we shouldn't be too extreme on it.
Okay, let me say this much. I like this non-response that he constantly gives about, yeah, we shouldn't be too extreme. In one way or another, it also, a counter-argumentation for that is always, whenever you can't even begin to clarify what is the stance on something, the common fence-sitting issue, if you cannot even express anything clearly enough to say, yeah, we have to find a middle ground, you're not actually expressing anything. You're already leaving all the possible interpretations up to the reader, up to the, in this case, I guess, what are they? Spectators of the talk? I don't know, something like that. It's as much as saying nothing, simply.
Peter Blair from Harvard and Hoover. Peter, when you opened the talk, you said that the antonym of diversity is the university. And one of the things that I've been thinking about during my time at Hoover is the ability of universities to cultivate human potential. For the past 12 years, through the Teal Fellows program, you've encouraged people to drop out of the university. What are some of the lessons that you've learned through the Teal Fellows program about how to cultivate human potential, especially given that, in a sense, like the Teal Fellows program is operating as kind of like the antonym to the university for the cultivation of human potential?
Well, I'm always hesitant to do too much of a pitch for these various programs. It was in some sense it was a very narrow program. It was 20 students a year. We've done about 10 classes at this point, a little bit over 200 people. It's been very uneven, but even the median I think has been quite successful. I think about a quarter. They can always go back to college, so we never say it's dropout because the colleges always want to have high graduation rate. And so if you stop out, we always use the word stop out. If you stop out, you can always still come back 10 years later because the universities are so corrupt. They're just trying to rig all their numbers. And there's one sense in which it was a very narrow program, and what should be so shocking about it that you could have 20 people a year in the U.S. who could do better than going to a university in the world, but it's mostly a U.S. program, but then it obviously triggered all these larger debates about our general society where
My God, can we keep having the remaining how much? 2 minutes and 10 seconds of not answering the question so far?
There's sort of too much of the tracks are just not going anywhere. And even though I can't accept that many people in our program, we haven't figured out how to scale it. There is this very broad anxiety that the colleges are not teleological. They're not leading to something better. I think Stanford is a little bit healthier than most places because people figure out you're supposed to study computer science. It's a little bit narrow, but I always say there only are 2 majors that translate into reasonably well-paying jobs outside the universities: computer science
I, I, I don't know. Is it a no personal readings, but then you end up with conclusions like this one? I cannot avoid what to do a fucking personal reading, my man. The question is about human potential, and you end up talking about income? Are you fucking stupid? It's fine.
Science and petroleum engineering. Um, and so there's some way that, you know, even on the elite university level, there's some way this whole elite formation thing has badly broken down. It's not all the university's fault, but I wonder whether the sort of extreme egalitarianism of elite universities is a kind of defense mechanism to avoid dealing with the ways in which they're betraying their students. And so if you tell your students, check your privilege, you know, you shouldn't expect to do more than the average person, that's a way for the university to, you know, to absolve itself of the responsibility to see that its students become, you know, the leading members of our society. So egalitarianism is sort of the excuse for a failed elitism.
Okay, wait. They're about to end it anyways. Like, I like the idea. I will repeat the very first point I think we almost started that with. I get to know that in many ways, universities about everything but the classes. The title is what matters, and everything else but that. The connections that you can make, the people that you can know, the professors that you can reach, the possibilities that it allows you to have contact with, the job opportunities that it gives you while you are enrolled, all of that matters. But the knowledge that you gain in itself from the university alone is unimportant. It's how do I know that? And somehow a person like this doesn't like what went wrong that we are in this point in time talking about things in this way. It's for me it's surprising. I don't know how to say it otherwise. It's frustrating and completely irritating too. Wow, man. The point returns to I was trying to aim at okay, you can say you can aim at the reality that indeed the universities like trying to be kind with what he's trying to say. The program works better than universities at expressing human potential. How do you get to derive that from all that he got to say, bashing universities themselves? So, weird to construct or object by defining everything that it isn't, basically. There are still way too many holes in there, like, you didn't even explain what that was, like, what does it do particularly well enough to actually justify itself besides, yeah, it isn't like universities, it does itself well enough. I see. What a charismatic person, I guess, I don't know. Anything else? I don't know. I don't feel like it's worth wasting much more time with this one. Finish this.
Thanks.
Yeah, clap. Okay, good enough. We are done with this video. Ay. When was this released? Let me look it up. Not look it up, like literally it says on the description. It didn't get a release. Yeah, it got released long time ago, actually. Unbelievable. The algorithm finally picked it up and made it popular recently enough, I guess. Because most comments are from like months and such. But it got posted like November. This happened on November 4 and 5 of 2022. This got posted on November 18th of the same year, so yeah. It's understandable enough, I guess, I don't know. Anyway, enough irritating stuff. We shall go to something else. We shall go to I guess the antonym to all of this, I at least my thinking process has been with I haven't really found any other way to bring this forward, to mention it in any other method or such. So now that we finally acknowledge the existence of this AI, besides the world of, I don't know, Vtubing and enjoying the virtuality and all of that, we also have this other side of existence. It's quite a funny thing to know that that does exist there and such. So, besides that, besides the negativity of all of that and such, like, without even trying to take a deep dive on the character of this person again, we can move on knowing how it goes like that. We shall go on to a second, more interesting, and I don't truly fully feel like it's all that positive, but we shall at least comment on it again. Let me open this.
Me up at night, not the idea of
Shut up, my brother. Let me copy video URL. Okay, we're gonna. I think we're gonna take a break before that. Actually, yeah, we shall go with things like this. I'm gonna take a tiny break, and after that, we are gonna start the second one, the second video, and after that, probably we're gonna be done. Like, I haven't really encountered much more worth reviewing in any other way. Kinda boring, because it's surprising to not actually encounter anything like that otherwise. I guess I haven't really been spending my time watching particularly video essays like I used to, so sadly I have been stranded from that algorithm of more, yeah, video essays a lot. And I'm not gonna sit here to try and watch, like, it took us this long. Almost, how much? Let me check that actually. How much was the last stream? 2 hours and a half? 3 hours? 2 hours and a half plus another hour and a half here. 4 hours to watch a 50-minute video. If we try to watch the other, like, something that I know I am completely looking forward to having enough free time to watch, it's the. I didn't save it on my playlist. Unbelievable. The You're Not Immune to Propaganda Part 2. I described it last time. It lasts like 3 hours or so. If not 3 hours, 4 hours, basically. And it's not possible. Not possible to do that here. We're gonna take, probably, if we tried to watch that in its entirety, with the way in which I like to go about things, we're gonna take way too long. We're gonna take it way too long. It will be a fun thing, but we're gonna take way too long, and I will keep forgetting. So no. Anyway, let me take my break. Thank you very much. Let me mute the desktop audio so that you don't have double audio. Here. I like how this thing is set up the BRB, and I didn't realize that from last time actually. But it's already set up there, so good enough. Let me change this other arrow, I guess. Like this, like that. Okay. Yeah, give me a second. I'm gonna be back soon enough. I don't know. Drink water or something meanwhile. Stretch probably, yeah. Be right back. I keep testing. I have no clue. I have the fear of God put into me. When Naya said last time, yeah, for some reason when I mute it doesn't mute. Thank God, that's not the case here. When I mute, it mutes. Thank God. Anyway, we have this other video. Let me set it up like this, like this, like this. This is. Do we have it copied? Yeah, I have this copied. We have this. My God, I gave it a thumbs up. Unbelievable. Fucking. What's. Quizás this motherfucker. Anyway, watch. Before watching it, as always, I guess let me drop the reference. This. I like the first frame. Oh no, you know what's so important about your video? The very first frame. It matters so. It's fucking Snowden looking like he's out to lose it. Also, what's that? Oh, why do we have a bar there? Is that the mouse? What the fuck was that? That's yeah, that's the mouse. I see. Anyway, give me a second. Let me paste this. There we go. This goes pin here. This, yeah, and I will have to remember to paste this on the on the thing on the Discord later. Unbelievable. It's fine enough. It's fine enough. Pin on YouTube. There we go. Good enough. We have our pin. We did our so well enough. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Let me. I have way too many things open. I was feeling like we were lying actually. Let me excuse me. Why do we have because I said yeah. Because I mentioned the thing being trending that I heard about the clock tendency. Yeah. I have an idea out of nowhere. The zeitgeist of the world turns directly to that idea and says, "Oh yeah, this is so good, motherfucker! It's basic human instinct to have a clock. What are you talking about? It's fine." Yeah. Let me. Okay, no, we have all audio sources good. We should be ready to go. Let me play this. What's this? I don't know. First time seeing it. No, I'm lying. You're gonna find out, I guess, if you don't.
And this is what keeps me up at night. Not the idea that the system will fail, as it always has, but the fact that the system will succeed. And I think this is what we need to guard ourselves against.
That's Edward Snowden, beamed in from exile. And he was in exile, in case you weren't aware, because he's the guy that proved the government is watching us with documents, because he leaked them. The government didn't like that, so, well, yeah, I mean. But standing in this room with Edward is the guy from my last video, Harry Halpin.
Yeah. There is, okay. I'm gonna make it a quick rundown. We're not gonna watch both videos, like, we don't have enough time to do that. Basically, this guy, Harry Halpin, is a developer that made, an anarchist and philosopher, and a developer also, amongst its many other titles, that made a software that is the whole. Both of videos simply talk about how this software tries to work, framed behind the whole ideology, behind the whole conversation of, in this case, we were watching everything related to, indeed, there are these problems, there are these situations, there is this universe of events that relate directly to what has to do with the state and the overpowerness of the overarching Big Brother and such, and the surveillance state and whatnot. Okay, this is the alternative. It's very interesting, but as I said before, it's not really all that positive. It gets somewhat discussed, but we are gonna wait a little bit before we until we get to those points to mention them, I guess.
And they're introducing the technology he's developed to defend against the all-seeing eye, the surveillance machine. Palantir. It's Palantir. Okay, I don't know why I'm whispering. It's probably more than Palantir. I think Palantir could be the tip of the iceberg. Who knows?
Okay, I have to admit something. This guy, it's like a tiny, not incredibly tiny channel, actually. I think he has less than 10,000 subscribers. It's great to see the videos that he makes, but it's an incredibly low-scale production, so there is not an entire team helping him. At this point, once again, I will return to the idea of not only being Palantir, but also being Flock, and with that, we can help ourselves currently. There is ongoing a whole discussion about, surprisingly enough, there are a lot of things related that have come out these things. There is a lot of discoveries out of Flock themselves. There are a lot of cases. There are a lot of issues happening with that. And there is like one main YouTube guy, technology guy, who has made a lot of efforts towards proving what Flock tries to do and such. Like, not proving as we are discussing things here, but proving it by being in places, by talking to people, by recording the entire demonstrations and whatnot. It's Kino in that sense. So there is also that. But we shall not look so much into that other thing. The point still is this more greater aspect of the world, quote unquote.
Oh, what a week. I've been deep researching into conspiracies. Well, the conspiracies, I don't know, I guess we'll find out. There's this government logo. And tech that could block the all-seeing eye. Not block, but we could use it to hide and live lives without being watched.
Information
Was I
awareness
triggered by
office.
the last video I made, which for my small little YouTube account of 2,000 subscribers, which is now 9.5 thousand or something ridiculous, was a lot. 2,200 comments, and I went through all the comments. To, well, answer the questions and research more. And then I kept finding things. So at this event in Paris, Harry walks through, I'm kind of thinking about it like the generations of network privacy, the VPN, how it works, Tor, and then NIM. This event somehow just went unnoticed.
Okay. I think it later on gets properly explained. Simply, why does it even matter to talk about this? In general, why are we here? Once again, we're trying to talk about the whole idea of privacy and the whole idea of trying to escape the surveillance state and whatnot. Okay, the simple explanation is, in many ways, what we have been told is the VPNs themselves are the furthest way to try to access any sort of safety towards this very same surveillance state. But if it doesn't truly work out, we still have options like Tor. Now we're actually going to see what happens with that and why there is this third new technology being incinerated.
Mostly, with only 5,500 views. And
Actually, I remember having, I don't know how much of a useful commentary that is, but yeah, I remember having seen it myself, because when the first video puts you into the algorithm of the whole channel, of the project of NIM and such, and it's amazing how that sort of rocket launcher them to a little bit more into stardom, because I for sure have never heard about them, and I don't discuss that here, but I am quite into the cybersecurity aspect of the internet, even if I am not really somebody that deep into anything. Like, I still use fucking Windows, which is main big issue. So it's fine. Anyway, problem is that I watched this and it's quite interesting. It's the very beginning of the video, of this video that we are watching now, starts with that too. The analysis that was being done by Snowden. But, I don't know, yeah, continuing.
And this room, well, yeah, it's empty. So my research showed this could be one of the most consequential pieces of technology launched in I don't know how long. So this is a video about, well, the surveillance machine, but more importantly, things that hopefully we can do to defend against it spying on us, watching us, disempowering it through technology. And I'm going to weave in the strange world we're living in the hope that we can have a more, well, we can keep our freedom. In the hope we can keep our freedom. So this.
Okay, I don't know. I guess this is a good enough point to stop. The video is incredibly long, anyways. Not long. It's long enough for how much time we have remaining. But yeah, being honest, and I like, once again, comparing this to what we were watching before, it's amazing to see the other guy, somebody like Peter Thiel, be so forward about, yeah, we are being robbed for freedom, when it's literally that very same person who is at the same time putting not just the collar, but rather the fucking iron cage around us in so many ways. It's crazy to see that, and it's interesting enough to hear out this proposition, because otherwise I would have assumed we were probably already doomed enough, but I don't know.
Fight with the surveillance machine. It's very, very active in this exact moment. There was an open question from my last video. Is the UK going to ban VPNs? And good news.
We've engaged very widely with families across the country on the question of VPNs. And one of the big things we heard was that many families feel VPNs are important to protect their privacy and their children. Whistleblowers told us the VPNs are important for them. Minority groups told us that the ability to use VPNs is a really important way in which they can call out for help when they need it. And so for those reasons, we have decided not to limit VPNs today.
They chose not to ban VPNs. Common sense, really. I don't know why it was a question. However...
Okay, quickly explaining the background. I hope it already gets explained here. I hope most of these explanations end up being useless, because I don't remember entirely the structure of the video. But basically, the reality was, once again, the argument of, yeah, we have to do this for the safety of children. Something like a VPN can be abused for the sake of taking advantage of the minorities and whatnot. In many cases, something funny that occurs is VPNs themselves don't really get to affect the most of the people. Even the activities that are performed with them end up being, in many ways, observable, to then realize that indeed the impact that these users of VPNs generate have almost never any sort of direct impact on the safe internet, quote unquote, the surface internet, or however you wanna call it. It's, once again, the argumentation that they were going for when it came to the, oh no, we shall ban VPNs, is that whole perspective of, no, they are doing harm to society, they are reducing and attacking and so many things. The hidden, I think he also didn't mention it himself, it's the hidden agenda of a VPN is a direct tool that you can utilize to access and bypass many restrictions imposed by the corporations which you get to interact with in your day-to-day web surfing, and many services even find themselves completely nullified simply by the possession and activation of a VPN. It's one of the easiest ways, as long as you can access one for cheap enough or free directly, safely enough also, to avoid all the limitations that nowadays these very same services, which are privately owned, therefore which can do whatever the fuck they feel like doing, have. So, since these private sectors cannot directly remove their functionalities, if you have something like a VPN installed, it's easier to just lobby around the VPNs as a whole and try to get the states to ban them. Like, the conversation here is UK is gonna ban them. Now we can say safely, quote unquote, no, they are not. But for sure, that has already happened in other places of the world, as far as I know. So it's not all that great, anyways. Like, UK avoided that. Wow. What about the rest of the universe? Like, what about Argentina? I live in Argentina, not in UK, brother. But anyway.
We need to talk about VPNs because we use them as if they're private and they're not. And I thought that they were. Harry explains at this event in Paris.
So this is a traditional VPN, and they send these packets across the internet. Most people don't think about this, but whenever you use the internet, you're sending TCP/IP packets, and eventually it gets to your destination. And the VPN just kind of sits in between you and the rest of the internet.
It's one company. There's only one thing.
Yeah, that's the main fun thing. The explanation is very simple. The VPN lets you borrow an IP. An IP is basically what identifies you when it has to be about, okay, where are you from? And other specifications, if it gets to be a more complex one. All of that then reflects onto what gets to happen to the service that you're receiving based on the IP. Once again, why a VPN can be useful. But yeah, it's incredibly easy to just see a privately owned VPN company can get subpoenaed and directly have to give up the information. It's impossible to be absolutely safe just from the possession of a VPN. But again, as long as you're not doing anything illegal, like, I'm not even sure. We're gonna probably return to this part of the conversation later. But even if you try to have a VPN or something like that for illegal activity, I'm not sure even with fucking NIM, which is the other highly far more efficient program, you're still absolutely safe from ever getting found out.
So that opens up significant different vulnerabilities. First of all, with the bans, that's how a government can just ban it because they just tell the company they can't operate anymore. So banning a VPN is possible.
The Kremlin is going all in to isolate Russians from the global internet. It's now targeting VPN services, a virtual lifeline used until now by up to half of all Russian internet users to bypass increasing government restrictions. Russian authorities have blocked more than 400 VPN services. Even US tech giant Apple has given in to pressure from Moscow.
And to make it...
Yeah, I wasn't wrong. This video has some information about it that, luckily enough, yeah. You can celebrate that UK didn't give in. Okay, what about the rest of the world? You already have examples of that somewhere else. It's not all happiness and celebrations and cheers for we have remained safe. It's one referendum in one place of the world. Everything else has still to be decided.
Even worse, many of these VPNs, especially the free ones, are selling the data.
In fact, a lot of VPNs, particularly free ones, literally that's their business model. You run the VPN, they collect your data, and they sell what's called that net flow data to large companies and governments.
Facebook is not going to end its data collection, right?
Yeah, okay, wait a second. It's... We're getting way too complex if you have never heard about technology of this kind, because in the end, yeah, something funny that happens is in the process of utilizing a VPN, what you're doing is simply you're giving all the information not to your internet service provider, which can sometimes still happen. Like, even with a VPN, your ISP can still know what you're doing, for it has to go somewhere, and they can track that packets flowing. We're gonna talk about that later. But you're also selling your data to the VPN company itself, which they get to have, and the main way to make profit off of it is to just resell it to data brokers. What is a data broker? The people who directly feed into this whole narrative. All that you need to have at hand is the people who directly feed stuff like Flock, or in this case, yeah, Palantir too.
They're going to stop it with Onavo, but they do say they are going to keep doing data collection, but they're not going to do it in a tit-for-tat way where, hey, I give you a VPN, I'm going to take your data. Now they're going to make it more explicit that they're collecting your data and taking money.
Companies that most Americans aren't at all aware of that go out and buy up data about each and every...
The strange and even more dystopic reality is that a VPN, well, it's not even safe.
Because there's a second point which people here should notice, which is when you send packets across the internet, not only do they come at particularly different times, but they also have different sizes. And this makes essentially a universal internet fingerprint, which can then identify you across the internet. But the fact of the matter is who you're talking to, when and where, gets revealed to everyone, including your internet service provider, your telco provider, any IXP or internet exchange point, and if there's any kind of either cyber criminals or intelligence agencies watching these points, they can detect who you're talking to. And then research from my old mentor at MIT showed that using just the information or the metadata of who you're talking to, when and where, the content and the outcomes of your conversations can be predicted with like 60 to 70% accuracy, which is somewhat terrifying.
That is terrible.
Yeah, it's basically in that sense, yeah, it's funny enough to know that in current state, I guess, I don't know, it's complicated to say that because in the end we wanna believe that we're still very much free, and at the same time you have to also possess the assumption itself that you do not find yourself demotivated by the realization that you might as well not so much be. But yeah, it's very much like that. It's quite easy nowadays to be not just checked in, but totally tracked in all levels of existence in the virtual world. And in this video you don't hear about all the other stuff of, yeah, they also have it quite easy since decades ago at this point in time to also track you with other things from the remaining technologies. Like, something incredibly funny is probably they can already even detect stuff like who lives where simply based off the fucking Wi-Fi signals. Like, your ISP could at any point probably turn also that. But again, you're not here to think out all the downsides. The point is that, yeah, that exists. That is the current existing problem in the normal world. Any given solution, any gentleman, any way to tackle this?
That's all we're collecting, just the metadata. So you shouldn't need to worry about it. Well, you know, I take my cue from a former general counsel of the NSA, Stuart Baker, who said on this question, metadata absolutely tells you everything about somebody's life. If you have enough metadata, you don't really need content. It's sort of embarrassing how predictable we are as human beings.
Right. Yeah. First of all, David's description of what you can do with metadata, and quoting a mutual friend, Stuart Baker, is absolutely correct. Okay, we kill people based on metadata, but that's not what we do with this metadata.
Yeah, that's the. I guess before getting to the positive side, a little bit more of that. Yeah, certainly it's pretty much part of the functionality and such. It has a lot to do with, conceptually speaking, the metadata also allows you to generate already, as long as you're willfully tracking somebody, stuff like pattern prediction and such algorithms that can allow you to try to slowly trace who might be. And once again, in a surveillance state, there is not just one component that work. You already have other things that can let you predict stuff like, okay, I look Tupo is a person who tends to like, I don't know, anime girls, so I might as well find myself watching this sort of anime. One day out of nowhere I disappear, but they're in a completely different position of the world. At the same time appears another person who consumes during the exact same hours that I used to, the very same kind of anime girls that I used to myself. Will it be possible to know if that is me or not, simply based on the analysis of this previous information, plus the interest in finding out who this new identity might be? The traceable connection might spring forward of perhaps this is not really a new person entirely, but rather a new secret identity that is being utilized by this one user. It's easy enough, like something that gets completely ignored is the social engineering aspect of all of this, and the not just social engineering, but also social awareness that has to be had to track all of this. Not even in this technological world, many of these predictions are based on other real life factors, not just on the bits that are contained within the metadata, let's say. I don't know if it makes complete sense, but yeah.
What's happened is that more and more people need essentially some sort of privacy on the internet. So how many people here use a VPN? Okay, most of you. Okay. That's good. How many people here have used Tor? Okay, larger than the average audience.
I'll admit, it's going to sound like a travesty to anyone in this tech space. I've never used Tor. I thought that it was really evil. Like the stigma associated with using Tor, whenever I've heard of it, it's like you're doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, it's one of those very well, I talked about this when we were in the position of the previous conversation, the previous video of yeah, you don't have to rule people by actually teaching them anything. You have to rule by fear. One of the simpler methods is to do that. One of the most amazing ideas is how, or in this case demonstrations, is how it has gotten painted as that. Or might as well be a completely horrendous tool that might as well put you on so many target lists if you were to ever utilize it, when in reality, once again, as long as you avoid doing anything illegal, you might as well just be now question mark, so to speak, in terms of why the fuck is this random person utilizing Tor simply. But it's something that somebody absolutely bored out of their mind has to actually intentionally check, not something that will always occur, that will always bring you consequences. And even if they were to be checked, that wouldn't make you instantaneously go to sale. The checking will just reveal, once again, as long as you're not doing anything illegal, that, yeah, I don't know, this guy was accessing, let's say, one of the many weird forums that for some reason are hosted by paranoid people. So they only exist on the Tor side, not on any other safe net aspect of the internet.
Which made me wonder why. So I started researching, and that's when I realized I was wrong. Very, very wrong. 97% of Tor traffic is normal web traffic. This is a US patent assigned to the United States of America.
Yeah, before getting to the whole patent, something funny, returning to what Wesley mentioned, is that sadly, in many cases, one of the most useful things is to just access normal services through something like a VPN, and Tor is just a complexification of a normal VPN, simply speaking. Later on, we'll get the proper breakdown.
Tor the dark web browser that everyone uses, the evil crimes, was made by the US government.
Yeah.
The whistleblower system that the New York Times, the Guardian, and the Washington Post use is on Tor.
Tor does improve the situation.
Yeah.
Is that the traffic goes to 3 different computers in the internet and sends it to the destination. So this means that unlike a VPN, there's not a single centralized trusted party that you can come to and ask, for all of the data.
It just sounds like an upgrade, right?
Yes and no. This is what things it funny. Like, I know this hasn't been explained in the video. I remember this much. The problem is you have. It makes it sound absolutely positive that okay, it goes to random PCs. No, you have to intentionally set up what are called those Tor nodes to be a node for other people to access and to connect from. And that's a self-exposing risk that many normal civilians are not willing to take because, once again, while as long as you are not doing anything illegal, you're just gonna get inspected, your activity, and found out as, yeah, this guy is, once again, just accessing random forums. It's fine. But the moment in which it gets found out that actually, oh wow, this Tor user is fucking accessing child pornography. You know what? We shall strike them. And sometimes it's based on the fucking IP. And if the IP was to be one of a normal person just got raided because of that. So many don't run that risk. Here is where things get funny. Who then will willfully do that? Welcome back to governments. They are some of the largest providers for Tor nodes all throughout Tor. So yeah.
So then I wondered, well, what's the issue? And that's when Harry, explained.
However, the problem with Tor, and this is also the case for anything that calls itself a decentralized VPN, is that you can see this kind of fingerprint here. The time and the sizes is still the same. So if I want to identify you using Tor, what you do is you just look at the entry and you look at the exit and you do a statistical kind of correlation attack. Now, before the Snowden revelations, this seemed kind of fine because it seemed sort of absurd that someone could watch all this traffic going through Tor, all this traffic going through the internet, because Snowden said actually this was possible. And this is in 2013 and 12.
Tor is really good, but it doesn't work if there's technology that can see everything from a God's eye view.
The reality is also a different viewpoint. It's good as long as you don't actually need to do anything relevant. It's good if you need to access a video on YouTube that for some random reason is already unlocked. It's good if you need to watch something on Amazon. It's good in that sense. Let's say that you're willing to become some sort of activist, some sort of journalist that will actually talk about dangerous topics, that will actually try to uncover some sort of truth that might as well get you absolutely in trouble in your country for it. That's when it stops being useful.
Do we have any technology like that in the world right now? Oh.
We turn now to the new FTC report saying social media companies, including Meta, YouTube, and TikTok, are surveilling users, including children.
Those companies collect troves of personal information, not just from their apps, but from your activity across the internet.
The surveillance machine. Everything is designed to track us.
What Facebook does is profile you. If you're on Facebook, it's collecting everything you do. If you're off Facebook, it's using tracking pixels to collect what you're browsing. And for
that's the most important part of this. Something that has been baked into all the terms and agreements that you are forced to accept, otherwise you don't get to utilize the platforms, is that, yeah, nowadays things are being tracked to that degree of, while you are on the platform, you're getting tracked. While you are off the platform, you accept that we are also gonna track you. So it's funny enough in that sense, because yeah, sadly, yeah, it's unavoidable.
Its micro-targeting to work, for its business model to work, it has to remain a surveillance machine.
And yeah, something funny is this whole idea of, yeah, this is all for the sake of money and whatnot. It's not so much simply out the gains that they have. It's not at all just about that, really. Honestly speaking, the money at some point became much less the central point. If they haven't been developing these technologies, they would have been gaining far more cash from focusing on actual marketing and such. It's, I don't know, not to make it way too paranoid, but no, don't really trust the saying.
The real issues we're working with is that the economic engine of the tech industry as it's shaped now is surveillance. It's the collection and monetization of data. That's not alarmist, that is technically true.
And then you add on increased government law and legislation like
Every Aussie, no matter how old they are, will have to confirm their age to use the internet.
Block license plate readers take a time-stamped photo of every vehicle that passes every camera. Police can search your historical travel information for 30 days.
And finally, you add on AI. AI that is incredibly smart and incredibly powerful, specifically at coding and cybersecurity and hacking and patterns like this.
What is unprecedented now here is the amount of information, the seamlessness of that information, and the ability to sort of mine and use that information.
And also something funny that happened was the other side of the, like, we are only users, we are not really participants of it in any other way, but something funny is how from the user side there has been so much assistance in making the services themselves better. Like, in an analogy that sounds terrible, because at the end of the day you don't really want to think about it in that sense, we pretty much helped them build the very same chains that we are now getting chained with. In terms of AI has gotten to evolve so much in these last years, because users have become far more of an integral part of the process, with the input and the constant inflow of inputs themselves, and with the constant interaction and the processing and stuff like, yeah, let's see if you can detect that this is AI or not and such. It's also from that sense funny enough that we're in a bigger problem simply because of that too, not only from the, oh no, the companies are all so oppressive and we are getting drowned out, please turn off the world, stop it for a second, I wanna go to my own island. From the person's perspective, I know very few people who actually have no hand in helping them. Not counter argument always is not to the same degree. Obviously not to the same degree. I'm not fucking Peter Thiel directly working in the generation of that, but that doesn't mean that I am completely guilt-free. I can assume that I am being oppressed to some degree, to some other degree. I cannot completely avoid the acceptance that I had some minimal interaction with these things myself, even if it was for a laugh, in the generation of something as silly as an image that I utilized to ridicule someone or to make a joke with. It's all get another stone in the way that shall be paved. So yeah.
They named the company Palantir, after the Palantiri from J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings.
In Lord of the Rings, a Palantir Stone is a magical object that allows its users to predict the future or to see what's going on in a remote location.
Palantir is simply a software company. It's a provider of different software solutions that pipe data together from everything from social media to, battleground information. It's important to note that they are not the database. Their platforms sit on top of existing databases.
Yeah, that's the funny thing, as I was saying. This is where the things finally come to it into the whole presentation. It's sadly like that. It's they are not evil by design, but sadly we have made them evil or something like that. I don't know. That's how they wanna wash their identity in a sense. Make themselves clean. We forced them into being evil or something of that sort. Yes.
Palantir has really made a huge foray into many countries, providing services to well over 100 countries in the world.
In Germany, Palantir software was operational from 2017 called Hessen Data, the NHS in the UK. I was looking at job ads just last week and I saw one for Palantir in Australia.
It is also the case that the Australian government itself has contracts with Palantir, and so it's possible that that's another reason why.
But it got weirder as I kept researching. I came across an investigative journalist, Whitney Webb. She has an investigation that Palantir is a continuation of a private government agency. This one, that's where this logo comes in, which is the all-seeing eye staring at the entirety of Earth, not just America, the entirety of Earth on a Illuminati pyramid. Is like Information Awareness Office. Congress in America killed that agency in the same year that Palantir was founded as a company.
Alex Karp has said on record that the intended clients of Palantir from the beginning was the CIA. And, the CIA was their first client for their first 6 years as a company. Their top developers went to Langley, Virginia, which is CIA headquarters, every 2 weeks to show the CIA their product and have them tweak it to their liking.
The government might not be doing it directly, but they are paying companies to do the same thing.
We do purchase...
Like, I don't know, it's not so much of a complex idea in itself. It's the it's the funny concept that had come with regulations in themselves being the actually holy shit. That's the wow. It's an obvious point, but I hadn't thought about it myself. I was gonna say it. One of the consequences of regulations is the introduction of loopholes. One of the easiest ways to get over something like a regulation on a particular space, in this case, it's with something like contractors and such. Similar thing that happens even in the work spaces, where you are not anymore actually an employee, you are a free contractor, a collaborator or something like that. You are not really entitled to any of the benefits of an employee. You are just an associate out of nowhere that joined a free agent that had happened to just encounter an opportunity to join forces with this. Same thing happens here in terms of, we are free agents, free private companies who out of nowhere come to fulfill roles that used to exist before in other parts of the state itself, but now we shall ignore the conversation about regulations. We know that we can operate ourselves freely without any regulation, and that's it. We shall do so, and that's fine.
Commercially available information that's consistent with the Constitution and the laws.
So you're saying that the agency will buy Americans' location data. It's particularly dangerous given the use of artificial intelligence to comb through massive amounts of private information.
And it is really a sign of what's to come in terms of what big tech's relationship is to the government. Palantir's goal is to become the operating system of the US government and governments broadly.
Edward Snowden at the same event talks about this specific thing
Now we have private companies that can do the same thing. Governments instrumentalize them as a kind of deputy to do the things that the government might not formally be able to do themselves, but they can just engage in sort of government as a service from these companies.
This
Like, yeah. That's what they say is the obvious analysis. It's not so complicated. You look at the market in itself, and it's the same thing. It's the exact same concept. Nowadays, you don't really get the benefits of having something like being all time actually enrolled on a soul directly. You're a partner, you're an associate, you're a contractor of sorts. You're not directly working with us. You're just momentarily doing so. Legally speaking, you're something else, not something that has to abide by the laws. And I don't know, I guess the underlying conversation in all of this is always, was this intentionally made with the loophole in mind? I don't think so. I feel like in many ways it's a different sort of planning, and sadly we should have been incapable of ever before this point in time actually communicating about it. Luckily enough, yeah, we are dumb enough to not have known about this, but luckily enough, there have been years of efforts towards the revelation of this. At one point, there might finally happen in a completely different wave of events, a catastrophe of sorts of. Maybe this finally reaches mainstream, and we see changes occur from that point of, now everybody might as well be aware of these too. We can only hope, but
private company in America is getting access to information all over the world. And then with AI, connecting all of the data points together to create an incredibly rich profile of so many things and places on Earth, of everyone.
It was originally created by the elves. It was meant to be used for good purposes. It is potentially a very dangerous technology. It's very powerful.
Long have you hunted me.
And this, I think, yeah, it goes deep. I'm not sure if I need to keep digging into that rabbit hole. If anyone has any information, I'd love if you shared that too. I've got some other theories, but I need to research that more.
And so that's why we invented NIM, and how it works is that the internet traffic comes in, and similar to Tor, it goes through 3 nodes. So you see this kind of fingerprint of volume and timing, these different shapes, which are your packets going across the internet. When they come out of NIM, they all look the same. So that fingerprint is kind of being eliminated. And NIM is a mixed net. And what that means is that the packets, each time they go to a node, those packets are mixed, kind of like shuffling a deck of cards. And you send them to another node and they shuffle the deck of cards. And you send them to the third node and they shuffle it again. So it's a bit like they're shuffling the cards again and again. And so that breaks this ability to kind of correlate who's talking to who.
yeah, that's. I think that is why somehow it is so different. I am fucking angry that I didn't myself get to know all this, and that it had to be a fucking random event. I wish I was capable of finding it otherwise, but it doesn't matter. The point is we're finally enough, in time enough to see all of this occur, and finally encounter a solution for all of that has been presented, because again, up to this point, this shit has been absolutely depressing. Now, finally, things get to finally look up a little bit more in that sense. There is a minimally working solution. The issue is they're going to talk about it more specifically from their own point of view. It's fucking slow. Like, welcome back to the 90s internet, where you have 50 kilobytes of speed. Oh my god.
Let's start with the Great Firewall of China. that is one of the most important inventions that the Chinese government has put out when it comes to internet censorship. What it does essentially is that they block all the major websites that the government would deem to be a cause for concern for them, when it comes to instability and all that. BBC, for example, is blocked.
And
yeah, I like how it wasn't directly mentioned. I guess I don't know. Sometimes we have a fear of directly saying things, or otherwise we might directly get the backlash. I don't know, man. Does it really matter? Perhaps, but in the end, yeah, it's also the usefulness of something like this being created, generated, and worked on for the sake of also allowing even places like those where they find themselves to be the most oppressed pieces of the population to finally have access to tools that can allow them to survive all of that oppression in different ways, not just through what has already been mentioned doesn't really work, but rather in these actually useful manners and such that can in one way or another slowly get to deal with the wave of things and change stuff around. Español? No.
Just like VPNs and Tor have weaknesses, so does NIM. It is a lot slower because when it goes through the process of mixing everything up, it slows it down a lot.
And the problem is it is slow.
What's the language? I don't know. I think it might be English. Maybe. I think it might be English. Maybe. But we're not so sure, right? But no, welcome. Yeah. But yeah, once again, what I said before, simply, NIM is... Where am I from? No, yeah, sadly, I am from Argentina. I do speak Spanish, actually, sorry. I just... I don't know. I guess... I wanted to practice my English, so that's why we are here. Let me say like that. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, because that's the
What the fuck is that name? MK Ultra? Unbelievable.
price you pay for being anonymous. So, but we said, well, some people, they just want to escape censorship. And so we made a version where we just turn off the mixing. You just kind of go to one decentralized server and you go to another, and then you're out.
Yeah.
It's really similar to Tor. And that's what we call the fast mode. So if you download...
Also, yeah, besides the conversation of all the mixing it and whatnot, having to be honest, I remember the very beginnings of Tor, like, I think 2016 or so, that I don't know why the fuck I wanted to test it at that point in time. Even at that moment in history, or rather, in those moments in history, it was incredibly slow already. This was far more similar to what we currently have with NIM, I guess. But I don't know. I feel like it's not that bad, I guess. Simply, we are fucking accustomed to having something like... What is it? Total... hyper speeds nowadays, something like gigabytes of internet connectivity and such. They are so key, and they are so useful also. Yet we have that with tools that are actually anonymizing, I guess, but it doesn't matter. Anyway.
But NIM is open source, and anyone can go look at the code and test it and run it themselves. The same as Tor. All of this it really is about community and collaboration, which I think is part of what... It's such a bright spot on all of the negative stuff. It's shown in this paper that I found when I was researching, written by the Tor founders. Anonymity loves company. When more users join the network, existing users become more secure, even if the new users never talk to the existing ones. Thus, anonymity loves company, because it's literally not possible to use any of this software without others.
If you only have Edward Snowden using your tool, then he doesn't have anybody to blend with. So you need
right.
not just it can't just be high-profile whistleblowers. It has to also be activists around the world and law enforcement and diplomats and so on, all blending together.
So this philosophical thought of being a collective makes you stronger has an actual functional reality.
I mean,
it's not just an iffy theory and no, feel good. If we work together, we can make things happen. No. Like literally the technology becomes stronger when everyone works together.
I mean, it's not just technology. That's the issues in many cases. One doesn't really want to believe that it might be the case that, the more we are, the merrier, so to speak. It's so wonderful to find how that works out, actually. Once the person is capable of slowing down and putting things together, not just through the singularity of their own existence, but rather through the willfulness of the shared experiences and through the capacity of generating something unified with the effort of multiple people, things get to improve. In this case, the specific analysis is that indeed, yes, something like the technology becomes far more solidified and far more useful and capable of working and operating at higher levels, and thus also in this case bringing even more anonymity. For example, something I got to saw it in a not so recent conversation that they did on their own channel, in the NIM YouTube channel. They literally have a fucking YouTube channel. I should probably link that later. It's, if things get to escalate properly enough later on, it might as well become possible to finally increase MixNet itself. It was already shown. It is a starting point, a middle point, and an end point. Three passages you have to do until you can finally exit towards the final destination. Okay, if things get to be good enough, and both the speed gets to be solved, and also something along the lines of the quantity of available nodes gets to be solved with the increase of user base, what would be if perhaps even more mixing got to happen and such? It's only not only something that can be understood as a dream, but rather also something that might as well be functional enough. So yeah, I don't know.
If everyone starts using Tor and starts using NIM, the networks get stronger and at the same time disable the surveillance machine. Because every person that moves to privacy tools like Signal, Messenger, and Brave browser, you take away some of the data points that this surveillance machine has. You take away a data point and then you put it into an anonymous pool that makes the collective movement of people who care about freedom stronger. It's like a double, triple, beautiful improvement.
Former
okay, yes. Once again, we return to the point of, sadly, there is nothing more beautiful than the fear-mongering of the state. I'm not going to assume that the people who have gotten to such positions of power are going to tell me things that might be against my very best interest. If they tell me something, it must be because their reasons are solid enough to actually try to help me in some sort of way. So if they are showing me evidence that what might exist out there might harm me, it might be absolutely true. It's a basic logical conclusion that most of us have gotten ingrained since we were very young. It's hard to convince entire populations to do switch-ups to these sort of technologies. We can only hope that that could properly occur, but that doesn't mean that it will actually occur. Anyway, enough negativity.
Mentor Bernard Stiegler, who's a philosopher here, and I'm glad to see Vincent and his friends here as well. He often wondered if the internet, combined with this phenomenon of mass surveillance and control, was going to make us the last free generation. That it was effectively an existential threat to our ability to be creative, to be individuals. And individuals, because no one is born an individual, we become individuals through our interactions with society and technology over time. We grow. And if somehow this has been short-circuited, this could be very dangerous. Is there somehow a way out of this surveillance panopticon that you revealed, which is only, I believe, intensified since 2013?
Okay. I think, if we have to be honest, I like the idea. Not, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I understand the idea that we might as well be doomed. We might as well be the only remaining generations capable of avoiding all of this. But something wonderful to remember is always, not only do we exist within our context, but also the whole world in itself is part of existence. There are still incredibly underdeveloped places in the world which are somehow escaping all of this. Sadly, that doesn't justify all the brutalities and horrible situations that have to happen in places where the underdevelopment brings them to such poverty conditions. That doesn't make them safe because of that, but simply because they don't have the access to such tools. They might as well have slower integration into such overarching types of control of power, implying that were to actually be what is the only remaining alternative. That doesn't mean that we are still all condemned to succumb to the power. It's, honestly speaking, fiercely implying that we are the last generations. We, from our countries, are the last generations. There are still places out there that are safe enough to maybe last many more. How many more? Maybe 5 more? But 5 might as well be enough to try to fight the back. For these tools have already been created. We're not talking about hypotheticals here, this thing already exists. We have traces of how to try to get free out of the chains of the system. We might as well start fighting. And even if we were to die, there will be already enough traces left for the future generations, so things might somehow turn better, not for us, but those who might come in the future, and that is worth enough trying to do. So, if we are condemned, that doesn't matter. The world in itself entirely is not doomed to fail, so we shall hope and bet on that, I guess. But, being honest, bureaucracy is the cancer of the world. I wouldn't even bet entirely that we are gonna be for sure the last generations. The bureaucratic machine moves at a fucking snail's pace. But we already saw pushback from the very same governments against these private companies and whatnot. We can only hope that the newer generations get to also push back against these private sectors too, not just against the state, which then subsidized other things, other private companies, as I said. Who knows? Anyway.
It's a debate intensifying across the country.
Your community is telling you that we don't want this.
I think we should completely remove them.
Across the country, at least 57 municipalities have canceled or let their contracts with Flock expire over the past year.
And so for those reasons, we have decided not to limit VPNs today.
If we can look at the map and clearly see that there's a problem on the road ahead, then I am not somebody who's going to go along to get along with a convenient delusion. Those things, once I see them, I am not going to veer away or pretend that they don't exist.
People like you, Harry, are working to create systems to carve out these private spaces for us, into which the state may not intrude so easily. But the fact that you are trying, the fact that others are trying, I think shows an awareness. Just like we have always had as a species, we want to get to the other side of the river. Well, somebody has to build a bridge. But we're not going to wish it into existence. We have to make it happen.
And that's the idea. Thank you very much. I think we're done. Yeah. Kino enough, Kino. Absolutely Kino. All of it, Kino. All of it beautiful. So yeah, I don't know. hope to be free and work towards being free. For it is not late enough yet. Sadly, despite all the desires to be told the total opposite, we are not the very last free generations. Trust, for we are still capable of going out there. So yeah. That's it. I guess I have more to add myself. I'm satisfied. Thank you enough. And yeah, I know. I guess we are done. We shall call it a day here. So, once again, thank you for everything. Thank you for the time, the patience, the interest, the attention. All of it. It has been great. And yeah, have a good one. Have a great one. Remember to rest, to hydrate, to go out there, to look out for things, to hope for stuff, to work on dreams, to try more than ever before, and to not surrender even if sometimes the message makes it look like it is all over. Do not give in for it. So yeah, it's time to say goodbye for now. And whenever we can, we're getting back here. Until then, all that matters is how to do your part. And even if we don't get to return here, it will remain as the primal aspect that you can do your thing. So yeah, have a good one. Have a very good one. Now, the only remaining thing is goodbye.